Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Yonit Arthur. I'm an audiologist and coach. You're on the Steady Coach. Today's interview goes out with love to all of you dealing with a ton of anxiety, panic attacks, intrusive thoughts, or obsessive compulsive thinking as part of your neural circuit dizziness or other symptom recovery. This interview is going to give you so many actionable tools. And it is such a privilege for me today to introduce Michelle Cavanaugh. Michelle is a licensed clinical social worker. She's on the DARE advisory board. We'll talk more about what DARE means later in this interview. She also runs the fantastic Anxiety Paradox Instagram account. You should definitely check that out. And she is here today with 20 years worth of wisdom and insight to share with you so that you can master the anxiety and other symptoms you're experiencing as part of your neural circuit symptom recovery. You are going to gain so much out of this interview, and I strongly recommend you check out Michelle's work. You can find links to her website, the app, and her awesome Instagram account in the video description or podcast description. As always, please share this video if you find it useful, leave questions and comments below, and of course, subscribe to my channel if you're here on YouTube. If you're listening to this as a podcast, please consider leaving us a high star rating and following the podcast. All of these things help me reach more people. Please enjoy this conversation with Michelle Cavanaugh. Michelle, it is so wonderful to have you here. Thank you so much for agreeing to join me.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. I'm so glad I'm here.
Well, I was sharing off camera, I suppose, that you're a bit of a celebrity in my world. So I know they're going to be same reaction as I got a few minutes ago. But I think those who know you, but also those who don't know you, are going to find this conversation immensely helpful. So let's just give people a sense of who you are and what kind of work you do, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, sure. My name's Michelle Cavanaugh. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. And I've been working in the field of social work and therapy for 20, something years. And for the last 16 years, I've been working with DARE, the DARE response, not the DARE substance abuse program from the 80s.
Yes.
And we talk a lot about anxiety disorders, phobias, OCD, and that's the world I've been working in specifically every day. 16 years.
Yes.
DARE has an app, a website. We have different programs. It's kind of from the workings of Claire Weeks. If anybody's heard of Claire Weeks.
Oh, yes.
It's the same kind of concept. DARE is an acronym. It's kind of like it's a upside down version of how you would be treating anxiety. Is kind of opposite of what you might hear from a million other websites out there on how to get rid of it. It's a different type of approach. And so I oversee
Yes.
Like the clinical components of it. I write content for the app. We run groups. We run webinars. Just everything with DARE.
Yes. And just to right off the bat, warmly recommend your app. I recommend your app all the time. And basically, if you're having a panic attack or you're having just a lot of difficulties with anxiety in the moment, it gives you some immediate actionable things you can do right away to work with the response you're having. So really great work you guys are doing. Thank you for it. Yeah. Okay. So now I guess the big question on people's mind, especially for those who don't know you and your work or haven't used the DARE app or read the book. So I work with people with chronic dizziness, as you know, and I would love to hear if you have experience working with people who have physical symptoms related to their anxiety.
100% every day.
Okay. And dizziness specifically.
Very much so. This is one of the top ones.
I'm laughing and smiling because we both know the answer to this, but I just want to make sure people hear this before we get into our conversation. This applies to you. And I'm curious to know, everyone kind of has a different explanation for how this works. So I'd love your take on how anxiety relates to chronic dizziness or chronic physical symptoms in general, because I know they're not really that different. And as we discussed offline, this may be the same answer, but maybe not from your perspective. for people whose symptoms started from things other than anxiety, say someone had a medical issue that brought on dizziness and now they're dealing with chronic dizziness, as well as people whose symptoms started from a panic attack or from anxiety itself. So take it away, Michelle. Let's hear how you frame this for people.
Yeah, and kind of like the seed that kicks it off doesn't really matter so much. It's like the pattern that maintains the involvement is what keeps it going. So somebody may have had, I don't know, an actual medical condition that the symptoms of that condition was dizzy. And now we're latched to dizzy. Other people might have had a panic attack or might have been anxious, and some symptoms of a heightened state, right? A heightened state sensitization comes with a bunch of sensations, one of which is dizzy. That lightheaded, feels like the top of my head's rising up a little bit. That's a sensation that's often paired to the feeling of anxiety, right? Just like feeling of anxiety might come with shaky or stomach issues or things like that. So it's chicken or the egg. Either anxiety can kick off the physical sensation, or you can have a medical condition that dizzy is a piece of it. And then what happens for some people is that it just sort of gets stuck right here and it becomes pinned on the radar. And now it's the thing that will never go away. And here comes the disordered part. I don't love the word, but that's the word we're stuck with, right? The disorder, most people think, is the dizzy. And if I can use DARE or breathing or all these million techniques, sign up for 100 therapies, if I do all these things, I'm going to try and see if it works. And we keep checking in to see if I got rid of dizzy. When it's no longer just for the sake of alleviation of discomfort, when it's no longer, oh, did you try these exercises to alleviate dizzy? Okay, when it becomes more of a must or else, this is ruining my day, it's 24/7, I can't handle, I won't be able to handle, we're projecting into the future, we're forevering it. That's the disordered part. And whether dizzy came, regardless of however dizzy came up, the disorder is this part, my continued involvement and analysis and fighting and the danger stories we have hooked to it. And so now so what happens is a lot of people are like, I don't know if it's my medical dizzy or if it's my anxiety dizzy. So I don't know which ones to use DARE for or which ones to use the exercise. And it doesn't matter. It's the crux of this is, how am I treating the physical sensation that I am definitely experiencing in my body right now? What is my relationship with that physical sensation? That's kind of where the foundation part for DARE.
Yes. I really hope people rewind and listen to that again, because what I think I just heard you say was that, okay, and I certainly don't mean this in a let's minimize what your actual physical experience is, because it may be super awful and it may be migraines, it may be dizziness, it may be, you mentioned dizziness like lightheadedness, but also could be visual symptoms like visual distortions or what have you. Not to minimize the impact any of those symptoms is having on someone's life, but what you're describing is that's not really the disorder. The disorder is how we're relating to that particular symptom.
Yes. So in the anxiety world, okay, so the way I describe it in like a simplistic way, I mean, I kind of talk like I'm 5 years old sometimes, but there's a reason, because we kind of overcomplicate the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like you learn about your respiratory system and your digestive system in elementary school, but nobody teaches you what your alarm system, how it works, right? That fight or flight response. And the essence of it is it's designed to help you survive through danger. Okay, your body enters fight or flight mode so you can fight or flee or freeze or protect yourself from danger. So if your body sends you a whoosh of energy and then shows you the thing that thinks you need to do something about, and then you go, oh my gosh, I better get rid of that. Your alarm kind of sees how you're treating what's present. So that's the difference. Again, I'm not saying this to minimize anything either. It's more to differentiate the difference between discomfort versus danger. Okay. And when we treat fluctuating versions of physical discomfort, emotional discomfort, mental discomfort, versions of things that I don't like how this feels, but we use survival behaviors. We're fighting them, we're fleeing, we're avoiding, we're analyzing them, we're hooked in them, we're protecting ourselves from them. keeping a careful eye on them, that then puts that discomfort on the danger radar. So now you're like these little guys back here, little puppet guys. I got one over here. I use him as your alarm guy. So this guy now thinks that dizzy is danger, because if you kind of look about how we're treating whatever is present, you're probably spending a lot of time waking up and checking, is it gone? Is it better? Did this work? Oh, good, it worked. Now I can go back into my life. Life is on hold. You're adjusting things that you're planning on doing depending on how dizzy you think you're going to feel. And it becomes a game of Mad Libs with physical sensations. You can take dizzy out, and I've been on IBS podcasts. Replace dizzy with stomach or with tinnitus or with pain or with anxiety or with thoughts or with whatever. That thing becomes the most important thing in the room. And when we treat fluctuating levels of discomfort as danger, this guy, he speaks this language of whoosh, but he understands the language of behavior. And so the more you try and get rid of dizzy, probably the more dizzy you're going to find. And the more scared and important dizzy is going to feel, because I still can't get rid of it.
And what you're describing is such a catch-22 for people, though, because they, first of all, also just want to say, before I talk about the catch-22, it's not your fault, because the medical system does tend to treat physical symptoms as though they are sources of danger. So you will try to find things that are wrong with you. So it's not your fault out there if you started identifying dizziness as dangerous. It also kind of hijacks you a bit. I mean, it's a disorientation does turn on the danger response all by itself, but then you're given these messages from outside people. It is actually dangerous. Your life is kind of deeply affected by it. That's a source of danger. And so it's so easy to get stuck in this. But then people ask me this all the time. Okay, so you're saying, and Michelle, I'm 100% in agreement with you. In order to get better, you need to start relating to it more as discomfort than danger. But how do I stop myself from constantly checking and doing all those things that are actually making it worse? How do I get better by stopping trying to get better? How do you even start doing that?
Yeah. And that's my weird job.
Yes.
I actually just made a video about that. I don't know, like the other day or last week, like then we're like, okay, I'm trying not to check in. So then we check in to see if we checked in, and we're like, shoot, I checked in. And then it becomes, that's why I call them on like my Instagram page and all that, because I speak like I'm a kid. I call them doing disorders. So some of us have developed, some of us are born doers, right? We're good at solving problems, fixing things, foresight into the future. They're great abilities, right? Until they kind of go backwards, until they're pinned towards things that we don't really get to have as much say in as we would like to. Which sounds like control. Control. So it's a funny sort of thing, because like trying, like this was the video, like you don't exert effort to not engage in behavior. Like doing something requires work. Not doing something it's not with the mindset of trying not to. So trying not to think about something is my doers. It's like you're still using the same way at it, but like just like trying hard to go to sleep, trying hard to not check dizzy. So instead, like what I'll say is like, first of all, check just means to see what's going on in there. So one of the videos I did the other day, I had a little sign on my closet door. I said, how to check in with your body, how to check in with feelings, how to check in with thoughts. And basically I opened the closet door and I went, oh, I wonder what's going on here in my body. Yep, that's what's going on. And I shut the door and I kind of went back to whatever I was doing. And then the next sign was thoughts. So you can replace that with dizzy. So you really, when people are checking in when it comes to physical sensations in this world, it's probably not just like, oh, I'm so interested to see what my body's doing. It's more like, is it there? Is it gone?
Yes. Yep.
Right. And if that's the intention behind it, then you trying hard not to check in is going to have the same intention with this black or white must or else mindset.
Yes. Okay. So what you're describing, I love the metaphor. I did see that video and it's awesome. Your Instagram is a wealth of information. That's another thing people should definitely give you a follow. I'll put that in the video and podcast description. But Okay, so what you're saying is we're trying to help people develop that as a skill.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like there's kind of some skill involved then in being able to notice your sensations, notice what's happening, and respond relatively neutrally and then move on. That's not something
Yeah.
that comes naturally necessarily.
Some people, like usually our partners, right? We're paired, usually the doers are paired with beers. And I have like
It's
class one beer who like the mindset behind a beer is like everything's fine until it's not. Right. And the doers are like, but anything could happen. And especially with dizzy, it's not just the perpetual state of present discomfort. It's usually the projected into the future. It's
That's what I was going
never,
to ask about next.
oh,
Yes.
okay.
Yep. Yep. So because what I'm hearing, so what ends up happening is people kind of peer into that dizzy closet and they're like, oh my gosh, it's there. Oh my gosh, this means there's a story associated with it. And then they start ruminating on things that happened before, or they get stuck in like
Yeah.
worrying about 3 months from now.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I get the overall idea is to not get sucked into that story, but how do people do that in practice?
Yeah. So that's dare. That's kind of like, it's funny because before it was called dare, Barry had a different edition. It was called the one move, which was it's the same thing, right? It's kind of like learning how to notice something what's there, give it a nod, notice what's present, and really just let it exist without continued staring to see if my letting it exist changes it at some point. You just sort of like
Beautiful.
notice what's there, and then you go back to whatever you were doing, whether that thing was there or not. And so, therapists love acronyms. So when he was making the new edition, I was like, if you can have a different term, because back then he used this term, bring it on. Like, just God, give me more of it. Again, because it's safe. Would never tell you to bring on more danger. But it's this mindset of protecting yourself from discomfort. It was Mark said as danger. So Barry's like, oh, we could do R for run towards. And then here comes DARE, the acronym, which was great. 10 years, it's the 10-year anniversary of DARE at the end of this year.
Oh,
and
congratulations. Yeah.
So I was like, if people can remember the steps, they can remember kind of like what the steps of doing nothing looks like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Turns out when you sell that to doers, it becomes like, now I have to do the D and then I do the A. And now if I do all these things, it will work and I will feel better. And that word work, if you're doing anything to see if it works, that's the first little ding in your head.
Michelle, I love it. Oh my gosh, just please keep going. Just keep talking. So that amazing. So then what, again, I'm feeling the pressure. I can feel the frowns of the people who are like, but then what do I do? So we can't not check, but we can't check, but we can't make something work and we can't want something to work. Oh my gosh, what do I do? Then what do they do?
And which is nothing. And my job has been to teach people that are really good at doing things how to do
nothing.
Basically nothing. And it is the hardest thing I've ever had to teach because our people would much rather, I think, hard, complicated work. Just tell me what to do. I'll do all the work. I'll do all the meditations and all the therapies and all the tracking and all the journaling. I'll work really hard and I'll get good results because doers are good at doing. And when I teach people what non-doing looks like, what being with something looks like, it's not steps of action. It's more about me just describing what non-doing looks like. And that's DARE. DARE is kind of like teaching you, like, noticing something's present, noticing that you don't like it. You don't have to like it. You don't have to fall in love with dizzy. I love dizzy. I could pretend I'm on a cruise ship. It feels shitty. It feels terrible. Sorry.
Yeah.
It feels terrible. And it's allowed to feel terrible. That's not where the disordered starts. The disordered part is, and now I need to do something about it.
Right.
Yeah. And so if your involvement doesn't change what is, then you have an involvement disorder with what is. Okay. So that's why DARE is not about dizzy, and DARE is about your relationship with dizzy. So yes, it's an acronym, but it describes this overall attitude on how you treat for this podcast, it's about physical sensations. So most people are getting stuck, not in fighting snakes or zombies or fire or murderers. It's thoughts, feelings, physical sensations, states of being, memories, and what ifs.
Yeah.
Okay? That's usually what we develop disordered relationships with, things that come with intense feelings. But when we're treating them the same way you treat danger, feelings now start to feel like danger. Physical sensations now take on this meaning of danger, and it just doesn't feel dizzy anymore. Like when fear fuses itself to something, it feels danger dizzy. It feels must do something right now or else dizzy. And that must do something or else is that fight or flight response that kind of fuses itself to a thought, a feeling, a physical sensation. For me, it fused to my stomach. Never really cared about feeling trapped or getting sick or throwing up until I had a panic attack in the movie theater. And then I spent like a very long time trying not to throw up when I'm not throwing up, and then being nauseous all the time. When really and so dizzy is one of the most common things that people fight. We're not even just fighting dizzy. We're trying not to pass out. That's another big thing. It's a projection into the future, and we're really just fighting physical sensations here, trying to prevent a worst case scenario happening there.
Yep. Yes. Okay. So I was going to ask, that so many questions come up when you were saying that. I want to get to the actual DARE acronym because I think it'll be useful for us to review it. But before we do that, I kept thinking, how do you help people cope with the uncertainty of this? So in other words, what you're saying is it's our relationship to the symptom that's disordered. That's the problem here. The issue is with dizziness, sometimes it's unclear, at least at first, especially because vestibular disorders are kind of tricky. How much of this is medical? How much of this could potentially be something wrong with me? And how much of this is just my brain overreacting? And on my channel, it's mostly the latter, mostly. But there's still some amount people have to take on blind faith because if you check long enough, Michelle, you will find something wrong with you. You will. So no matter how much you know that there's nothing wrong with you or how much you know that there could be things wrong with you, there's some amount of blind faith. So how do you help people tolerate that so that they can put this into practice and see that it works?
Yeah, it's just like my job for people that are dizzy or to teach you how to be dizzy, right? How to get better at being dizzy rather than how to be less dizzy. For us, it's also how to get better at letting uncertainty exist because it already does. And it's this unspoken line, whether you like it or not. You don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I had somebody book a call with me and I was booked out for a little bit and they were like, I booked this call with you because I had this physical weird sensation thing. It lasted, I don't know, like a couple minutes, but it hasn't come back. And I don't know, like, could that be anxiety? I don't know. And we don't like, I don't know. We don't like to not know. And in this world, I don't know is the answer that gets you out. I don't know is the answer that gets us stuck into it. I don't know why I'm dizzy. Let's hook in and try and figure it out. And then if I can figure out why I'm dizzy, because Michelle, I like to know how things work. I just like to know how things work. I'm like a real analytical brain person. If I can just know how the whole vestibular process works, then I can accept it. I don't know how cameras work really, but I can still take a pretty good picture and just not know the mechanisms of it. You don't need, it's important to kind of like understand the basic information of how bodies work. And after that, acceptance is not something that requires more of this. It's more of here.
Right. Okay. So let me see if you agree with this. I think we're in agreement on this, but maybe we disagree slightly. So what I'm hearing is that, and I completely agree with this component of what you said. Ultimately, there's always going to be some area of uncertainty, and that to live a happy life, first of all, you have to be able to tolerate that. But also you need to see you're applying a double standard
Mhm.
to your physical sensation. There are plenty of other areas in your life where you tolerate uncertainty just fine and don't even think about it, don't even notice it. And
Mhm.
you're hyperfixating on this particular uncertainty, but you know, a refrigerator could fall on your head out of the
Exactly.
sky when you go out
Exactly.
the door. I mean, that could happen too, but you're okay with that uncertainty
Exactly.
or more realistic uncertainties as well. So I think we're in complete agreement about that. I think, though, for some people, there's a threshold at which, gosh, and I think this differs for everyone. They need some kind of explanation, like to, to be confident that it's even possible that something this powerful or this physical or this painful could even just be part of a nervous system response or part of an anxiety response.
Mhm.
I feel like I move back and forth on this. I always tend to err on the side of giving people more information, but I give it once. And then once
Mhm.
I've given the information, once
Mhm.
they've
Mhm.
gotten the information, you have the information. This is no longer an information seeking question. This is,
Right, 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 right.
I'm wondering, do you agree with me on
Yes,
that?
yes, because even like some people will book a call and they're like, I watched that video of yours 50
Oh,
times. Said
yeah,
the idea is to watch it once
that's right.
because
Yes.
in the video, I don't say if you get stuck again, watch the video. If you get stuck, it's teaching you how to let
Yes.
go, how to surrender. Not it's
Yes.
like sometimes even like our videos can become compulsive behaviors. We're
Yes, they
doing a lot
sure
of
can.
things. If I just know for sure, then I can let it go. And like one skill here is like really learning how to surrender to uncertainty.
Yeah.
Like I really just don't know. And so what I'll tell people to do is to just sort of like notice the facts. Like the facts are, and this came from one of our DARE members. They would say it so much on a group call, he got it in my head. He would say to him, he goes, his name, what are the facts? The facts are my heart is beating fast right now. The facts are I'm hot. That is what's happening right now. Because otherwise it's subtle, but from us smarties, we're trying to prove reassurance. No,
Yes.
I'm fine. I'm fine. You can't prove fine either. But what you can do is just notice when I'm experiencing my body is doing blank right now. I notice the bodysuit that I live in is doing this right now. It's an observable thing that I notice what's happening. Yep,
Yes.
period. And you learn how to be almost like, I'll use this term, a boring news reporter that only reports the facts. It's the stories we tell about the facts that usually gets us stuck.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm sorry. I have to follow you down this rabbit hole for just a second before we get to the DARE response. Everyone, I promise this will be time stamped. So you can skip forward to the DARE response if you want, but I have to follow you down this hole because for some people, it may be helpful to learn some tools of like relaxation and like letting the tension out of your body. And for some people, that that's kind of where they go automatically like, okay, if I'm noticing the dizzy or if I'm noticing the pain or I'm noticing, then I need to do this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying people shouldn't necessarily try that as like kind of a first line response, but what you're saying is that can very quickly become weaponized.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Everything can become weaponized.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it can become almost a source of reassurance. Like, oh, okay, my nervous system's upregulated. Better do my breathing. And then we're gonna make sure it works, which is another
Yeah.
thing
Yep.
we talked about not working actually. and and then also a form of like, oh, okay, this is how I can prove to myself that this is just anxiety. And then of course when it's
Yeah.
applied that way, it leads
Yeah.
to a
It's
spiral.
always about intention. All these therapeutic tools out there, they're great when they're used the right
Sure.
way, but we're using like screwdrivers for hammers. And you can get the best screwdriver in the world. Like it doesn't work because if it's used with the wrong intention, especially with those like black or white extreme words, I better use this, must or else. If every time I feel I very quickly do something, now I have to box breathe. I better meditate, better do this. And when
Better somatic track. Yeah.
right, all those
Right.
things are great.
Yes.
But when they're done with the mindset of to see if it worked, to get through something, and going at it like this, all of those things become weaponized things to survive through, in this case, dizzy. And dare is more how to be kind of like softer with, like, or doing all these regulation things. Like that's another thing that's kind of gotten skewed over the last
Oh
year.
my gosh, right? It's all over
Yeah.
social media. Regulate your dysregulated nervous system. Oh my gosh, I have a
And it just tells people
soapbox
to
about
do
that.
more stuff. It's more doing. And it's such a subtle under message. But the message really that's being sent is calm is safe and not calm is danger. So when you're calm, you don't have to do much. And when you're not calm, better do all these things. And
Yes,
when you
regulate.
feel better, then you're like, you don't have to do much anymore. And your body is inherently a self regulating system. It regulates itself. That's my little, I don't know if you ever see my little jar of sand here. I hold this up. I'm like, it's gotten a little cloudy over the years. I should get a new one. But like, I shake this, I can shake it up, but this is self-regulating. Like it settles itself back down. If I don't keep doing things to go back to that original state. I kind of just don't do anything. And Dare is teaching you how to do nothing. And like you can treat anxiety as safe and treating dizzy as inherently now safe. Even
Now
if it
safe.
feels like I'm about to, it's much
Yes,
different than I am, something's happening now.
right. Okay. I have to point to those two things out before you move on to the dare response. First of all, you just said we're getting this message from social media and other sources that calm is safe and not calm is not safe, and that is not correct.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just not correct. And then you also are talking about how it's in the not doing that this naturally happens.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's a perfect seg. So please tell us
Yeah.
how
So
to
there's
actually
four
put this into
steps of
practice. Yes,
non-doing, right?
yes,
So
yes,
again, if fear has gotten fused, so in this world, on this podcast, some version of fear, call it sensitization, call it hyperfixation, whatever you want to call it, the thing
yes,
that marks things as danger has fused itself to dizzy. Okay. So now we're here. So this time, so when dizzy pops up, we're all already ready to fight and survive through dizzy. Okay. And so Dare is teaching you kind of how to start treating dizzy as safe, now safe. And so diffuse, right? These are all ways you treat something that's present that you don't like as safe. And at this point, I just have like, I don't know if I have it here. I just drew a little scribble on a stick because it's the same words I'll use for dizzy that I'll use for tinnitus, that I'll use for nausea, that I'll use for shaky. Whatever the thing is, Dare is for this piece in between, not to get rid of the sensation. So dizzy is used for context now to describe Dare. Dare is how I treat the feeling of dizzy. And so the first step, if we're so fused to dizzy, I'm so dizzy, I don't know, it's here all the time. It's in my face. What do I do? It feels very disorienting and
yeah,
confusing.
yeah.
Defuse. So take a step back. What's happening right now? Those are the words I like to use. What's happening right now? And the best way to describe thoughts, feelings, physical sensations, right? I notice, right? Because the fact that you can say I kind of reorients yourself. I notice that I feel blank right now. Okay. Yep. Period. So that lets you be aware of what the body that you live in is doing. Okay. So for this context, I notice I feel dizzy right now. And defuse. You're going to take a little step back and be the observer of what it is that your body's doing. Okay. Now, if I notice that my body's on fire right now, oh my God, so that's pretty dangerous. So and I got a whoosh of energy for fire. That energy is designed to be paired. My behavior should be paired to danger. I don't need to keep doing something just because my body sent me energy to do. So if my body sent me energy for fire, That's a great use of that energy. If my body, this guy sent me energy for dizzy, it's kind of like my job to show this guy that dizzy is safe. Oh, hey, what's that fear for? Oh, dizzy? Oh, that's not snakes. Oh, dizzy? Actually, further involvement and analysis and battling and fight is not keeping me any more safe from dizzy. Here's a good diffusing word, but the one that people don't love so much when I say it, I'm just dizzy right now. Just is a good diffusing word. It's because you could be just dizzy, but not like, I would never tell you I'm just on fire.
Right.
It's just to differentiate, like, oh, it's okay. Thanks for the energy to survive through danger, but this actually isn't danger. I really hate this feeling. It is very uncomfortable, but it's inherently safe. And if it's safe, it's allowed. Okay. And so that's the A, which means like, that's what my body's doing. And my non-allowance of that isn't changing it anyway. It's just keeping me hooked to it. So it's already happening. So that's a part that a lot of people will work really hard to try really hard to allow something. And again, it's something that requires a lighter touch, less effort. Like if something's allowed, it's just, yeah, that is what my body's doing. And it kind of comes with this. This is a good motion to at least start using. It doesn't mean I don't care, but it sends this message of no further action needed.
For those just listening, it's shrugging your shoulders like, meh.
Oh, right. Sorry.
Yep. Yeah. So just, yes. And again, I want to differentiate because in case it wasn't clear, Michelle, you said this earlier, but for people who just may not have caught this, we're not saying it's not having an effect on your life. We're not saying that it isn't wreaking havoc in other places, but right here, right now, in this moment, it is just a sensation.
Yeah. So it's become like pinned to the danger radar, and we're here to get it back to just like you would treat another, like I'll tell somebody, pick another thing you don't like, but you're not hooked to. Like, let's say you don't really care about nausea or heart palpitations or something like that. Let's say like, I'll say, pick something else that you don't like. And so a lot of people don't really care about nausea. Like, well, what do you do when you're nauseous? And their response really is kind of what I'm describing right now. They're like, and they shrug their shoulders. And I would say like, oh, so you like nausea? They would say, well, no. So what do you do? And they're like, nothing. So like their natural go-to is to do nothing. I said, so find something else, find another physical sensation that you're good at having. Again, something else that your body does that you don't like, but you're kind of better at giving your body permission to do those things. And our body just doesn't have permission to do this particular thing. Okay, this is kind of how to get it off the danger radar. So that was the D and the A. And the R seems weird, like, but it's kind of like teaching people to do the opposite of what they're doing. So R stands for run towards. And I would never tell you to run towards danger. But if it's allowed, it can be there because it's safe. Because it's safe, I can have even more of it. This is the part nobody really loves. I can be dizzy all day long. I mean, you can send me more energy to keep fighting dizzy. But because it's safe, like it drops the resistance part. So you can't like push something away and move towards it at the same time. Again, it's a resistance disorder. DARE has nothing to do with dizzy. It has to do with alleviating your fight of dizzy. Okay. And then E, engage. This is the part that most people leave out. I'll say they're good darers. They do. Okay, it's fine. I'm just dizzy. It's allowed. It's accept and allow. I accept and allow all day long. Go on, bring it. Give me more. But it's still there. And then we keep looking at it and we stay introspective and pinned to it and analyzing. And E stands for engage. So now, what am I engaged in? What's the best use of my time and energy to keep staring at this? Or if something's safe, I can acknowledge its presence, take my eye off of it, and then do what I would be doing if this thing wasn't here. So that's the steps of DARE. And that's kind of like 4 steps on how to do nothing about something because that's something safe. I know I keep saying safe, but that's because somewhere in your body it got the message that something your body is doing is a version of danger.
Right. Exactly. Yes. And this honestly applies just as much, again, to symptoms that are the result of something that was medical and symptoms that are the result of anxiety itself. It's the same thing. It's just your brain has attached the danger label to this particular sensation, and this is how you help it start detaching the danger label from that thing.
Right. Because there's plenty of people who are dizzy or have some vestibular disorders, but they don't get hooked to them, right? It's like a
I've seen that.
a whole
Absolutely.
different story that people will say. It's like, oh,
Absolutely.
I'm just dizzy, and they treat it lighter.
Yeah, absolutely. The best example is chronic symptoms after BPPV. So BPPV, benign paroxysmal positional vertigo, it's super common, honestly, unfortunately. And I tell people these stories and they're like, no way. But yes, way. When I was working in regular clinical practice, the vast majority of people who would come to me with BPPV would just get their little exercise done and then they would hop off the table and I wouldn't see them again. That would be it. Bye. See you later. Oh, glad that's cleared up. Vastly different story for a small subset of people who have this happen. And then it becomes like the brain kind of gets attached to it. It gets hooked on it, as you said. And then it becomes this huge chronic issue. And it was certainly set off by a physical problem, but that's not fate. That's because of the way, again, I try not to say it's always about our thinking, because I think there's more to how we're responding than just the way we think about things, but it's the nervous system kind of got hooked on it. And that's how chronic symptoms developed. So
right.
Excellent. Okay. So does this work for really extreme symptoms like those of a panic attack? And I know the answer is yes, because often people talk about the DARE response. But I wondered if you could talk a little bit more about what's happening in a panic attack and why the DARE response helps.
So even just that word, like words are so important. Panic attack.
Yeah.
Whoever came up with it,
Yeah.
Dog attack, right? What do? I'm being attacked by a dog, so I better stay safe and defend myself from the dog. The dog is the problem. The dog is the threat that I need to defend myself from.
Yes.
So verbiage is so important because it sends this message of, I better do something to get through it. And everything out there is how to cope, how to get through it, how to ward off, how to no longer have, how to eliminate. And panic attack and panic disorder are two different things. Just like it's like a physical sensations. Your body is basically releasing adrenaline at the wrong time. Okay, because nobody says that they're having a panic attack in danger. Your body's releasing this whoosh of adrenaline, but you're in danger, so you're hooked to the danger. It's all working properly, right? Your body released adrenaline for the car that's about to hit you. Your eyes aren't checking your body. Oh, I don't like this feeling. I feel disconnected. I feel, oh my God, I'm about to get hit. So your body's stress response, and we're hooked to the actual danger stressor. Okay. When there's no stressor, maybe there was a misinterpretation. Maybe you were tired. Maybe it was a trip to memory from the past of danger. Maybe it was you smoked pot and you got high and your body misinterpreted that chemical. Maybe you had side effect of medication. Maybe you had a virus. Like something could trip off that whoosh, and then because there's no like attendable thing to attend to, we turn and we look at our own whoosh. We go, oh my God, this feels awful. Like we were never meant to look at it. We were meant to use it to look at
a stressor,
the danger and the bears, right? And so what happens is we have a panic attack and we either hook it to the wrong things. Oh, I'm in the movie theater. Like then we start treating movie theaters as danger. And this is how phobias develop. Where I had a panic attack, it sort of seals the situation, like it seals it in your memory. And so now anything that's like a movie theater gets marked as the danger space, right? So maybe you were dizzy and you had a panic attack, or maybe you were high and you had a panic attack. A panic attack is like a memory sealer. So now people get stuck in disconnected and DPDR because that feeling sort of gets fused here now. You know? So I went off on a tangent there.
Yeah. 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 Well, you must be so, as I was listening to this, I was thinking about something a client told me recently who has come to accept what's going on, but said, if you go on the internet and you go on YouTube, you go on some of these other social media websites, you'll see people talking about how panic attacks cause like brain cell death, and that, you know, the reason you have a panic attack in the first place is because like neurons get overexcited and then they die and then they never function properly ever again. So as I was hearing this, I just hope people are really listening. You've been dealing with this for a very, very, very long time, and you've seen people get better from symptoms that I'm sure are very severe. There's no brain damage. This is a normal phenomenon. A panic attack is, again, I'm just using the common phrase, even though I agree with you, the lingo is important. They are normal events, and our disordered relationship with them is what ends up leading to the problem, to be honest.
Because now panic attacks become the identified danger. And now we're spending our time trying to not have another one. And it's usually based in the past. Oh, last time I had one, I felt like I was going to die. It felt out of control. I thought I was going to go crazy. What if I happen again? And both of these disorders, we spend a ton of time in the past, a ton of time in the future. And all we're doing is we're fighting here sensations.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Fighting, the present fight is what keeps your body in fight or flight mode. Your body kind of follows your lead. So you're going like this all day long. Your body sees, oh, she's using all that energy to survive through something. So your body's going to keep sending you energy to survive through things until it gets the message that it's safe to come down. Mm-hmm. Okay. And you don't do that by purposely micromanaging it and breathing yourself to calmness.
That's right. Yes.
It gets the message of you ceasing survival behaviors.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So I think, based on your description, that actually a lot of people who are familiar with my work are probably good DARers. They're doing the D, the A, and the R. And the engage gets so tricky. I get questions about this all the time. How do I know I'm not avoiding, Yonit? So maybe you can tell us the difference between, and again, just to kind of frame this for everyone, if you missed, we're talking about the step of DARE where you engage in other activities, or you like move on. You stop staring at the thing that you just worked with. So, but at the same time, we're also telling people don't avoid, don't run away from sensation. So how do you make sure you're engaging and not avoiding at that step in the process?
Because it's always about intention. Like I'm going back about if I was making soup and something caught my attention and I notice it doesn't require any more of my attention, I go back to making soup, right? Sometimes we get stuck trying to split hairs of like, well, shouldn't I just be staring at the thing to prove that it's okay that I stare at that thing?
That's right. Yes, exactly.
And isn't that like exposure therapy? And shouldn't I be working on maybe doing some somatic work to try and work on saying it's okay? And this is like more of OCD-ish type cycle and perfectionist mindset and black or white, like, if I don't do this the right way, I won't make my new neural pathways. And if I don't make my new neural pathways, I'll be stuck like this forever. Yes. That way of talking is part of the disordered way of going about it, right? It's more like if I was already doing something and something caught my eye and I notice it doesn't need any more of my involvement, I just sort of go back to whatever I was doing. Mm-hmm. Even if it catches my attention 2 seconds later. Oh yeah, that thing. Mm-hmm. And you do it. I know this seems too simple, but pair it up with your body too. A lot of times we're going at it with our mouths, with the right words, and trying to convince it in our heads. But like, put your body on the same page. Shrug your shoulders. Oh, that thing? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm dizzy right now. I would love to be able to press a button and get rid of dizzy, but since I can't do anything about it, here comes the nod, the acknowledgement, the shrug to be pinned to what I do next, which is I really can't do anything about that. And so I'm going to surrender my control.
Yeah.
Control, vulnerability, and uncertainty. Those are like our three pillars that gets us so stuck in all these things. And I surrender control and I'm just going to carry on with what I'm doing. And when you get re-involved in life, you become re-engaged in life. And as people kind of come out of this, you usually notice progress as like a look back. Like, oh, I got so involved with my girlfriends at lunch. I like totally forgot about Dizzy for 20 minutes. And then I checked back in and I found Dizzy and I was like, shoot, I shouldn't have checked back in and now it's back. But don't get discouraged. That's really signs of progress because it shows that you left your body alone for a little bit. And like the intention is more of irrelevance and indifference rather than elimination.
Okay. So how would this look? And I think you've already basically answered this, but just because I think people are going to need to hear this in a very specific way to them. How does this look when someone has symptoms 24/7? Because a lot of my people do, and I've said this millions of times, but I want people to hear this. They're like, oh, but how do I, do this? Because I feel like no one else has symptoms all the time like I do. Everyone has symptoms all the time like you do. And you may not even notice changes in them. You may just have them all the time. You may find that at certain times they're a little higher or lower. But so how does this process that you just described look in that situation?
Well, first, we're really good at selling our story why mine's the worst thing.
Good point.
And so even on like the DARE group calls, I'm like, who's team mental? Who's trying not to go crazy? Half the hand. Who's team physical? Tell me your story. And we're really good at like, intrusive thoughts is the worst thing because, oh no, heart palpitations is the worst thing because. And then I'll say, so who are my like on and offers? Like panic attack or nothing.
Right.
Well, who are my 24/7ers? All right, sell me your story. And so I'll sell the other story first. Oh, but all or nothing, like you never know when it's coming. So you're always on edge and you just don't know. And so I'm constantly checking because what if it comes and then I don't know how to handle it. And then it just shows up out of nowhere and all my DARE techniques go out the window. And I mean, if it was just there all the time, it would be easier because you would just leave it alone. And then my 24/7ers are like, no way, girl. 24/7 is the worst because it's there all day long. At least you get a reprieve. You get some, like it's gone for a bit of time. For us, it's constant, relentless torture. Listen to the words I use. Words are so important and special. And the way you describe experiences really kind of sends this message of like, I'm in a perpetual state of torture, of survival, 24/7 with no relief. And I'm trying so hard to accept and allow. And it's endless and it feels hopeless because it's been here for so long. What if it never goes away? That's the part we change.
Yep. Yep.
And to go with 24/7, find other stuff that's not hitting high on that radar, but something else that goes on 24/7 that you also don't like to practice. To practice what it's like to become tuned out from something, not to get rid of a feeling, not to try not to notice a feeling, but when you accidentally become tuned out of the construction noise outside or set like a sound on your radio that you can always kind of go find it if you look for it, but then notice what that process looks like when you accidentally become disengaged from it. That's the process we're going for with DARE.
Yes. Excellent. Tuning out and think about the amount of effort that it takes to like tune out of a radio station. Like we're not talking like, oh my gosh, I really have to focus on tuning out of this thing. It's like, just turn the knob a little bit.
Right. Focus is what keeps you tuned in, right? Like trying to listen and trying not to listen is the same effort. Do you know what I mean? And the subject is still the same. So trying not to hear the radio still has the emphasis, the importance on not hearing the radio. Instead of like, oh, the radio's on. Okay, while the radio's on, I am also going to watch this movie. Now, you may have kind of like a pulled attention where now you're like, oh, I'm so dizzy. Okay, well, watch the movie. Oh, I'm so dizzy. Let that. That's going to be the process of where you're going to go back and forth and you'll have awareness. The difference between what you notice and what you focus on. So you can notice and have awareness of dizzy, of hunger, of the texture of the seat, of what the person next to you smells like, of the movie. We tend to have a big attention problem, right? Because now we're staring at everything that pops up on our radar. And it's a matter of like growing this muscle of looking at what's most important rather than looking at what's most uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. Even if that most uncomfortable thing is right in front of your face, it's, yeah, I do see that. Mm-hmm. We're actually watching this movie right now. And it's going to be like this is what takes practice. It's kind of a muscle to grow.
Okay. So this leads me to a question about exposure. So I can see how you'd bring this mindset to exposure, but how do you feel about people doing things deliberately that they need to do? Like, so again, my folks don't necessarily have, I guess, what you would technically classify as a phobia, but they have things that they have been avoiding because they've been so physically uncomfortable. So as part of their recovery, it is they have to move again. They have to go back to the grocery store. They have to start going for walks again. So how do you propose people do that with this light touch that you're talking about, with this bringing kind of awareness and focus to the things that are most important without making it more work that's going to hyper focus on whether it's working?
Right. Again, it's all intention. Like, hey, I haven't gone out to lunch. I haven't gone for a walk because of dizzy. Like if I didn't have dizzy, like I'll tell people, what if I gave you an anxiety blocker, or if this case, if I gave you a dizzy blocker, okay, guaranteed to not be dizzy for the next week. What would you be doing differently that you're not doing now, or vice versa? That you might be doing a lot of things or because of the sensation. What would your life look like? Not how you would feel or how happy you would be, but like what would the actual tangible things be doing? Oh, I'd be going out with my friends. I'd be taking walks. Great. That's your plan now. Like have some sort of schedule of life that I would be living, which you would have had anyway. Right. The problem is we've created this, like really it's not like dizzy becomes the phobia. You're not really scared of going out. You're scared of how you feel when you're going out.
Yes. And how do you have people ramp up? Like say someone's just been dealing with big dizzy and they're like, yeah, if I didn't have dizzy anymore, I would be, grocery shopping and I'd be going ice skating and I'd be bungee jumping and, or maybe not quite that extreme, but they have this huge, this very ambitious schedule that they might have, but they're not conditioned in the sense that their body's not conditioned. They haven't been active for a while, perhaps, or they're new to this whole idea. They haven't yet had practice on how to work with dizzy and work with panic and anxiety when they come up. So is that something that you want to see people build up as a skill as they're going back to these exposures first, or do they just jump in?
Either or. I've seen people do both. It's kind of like if you're going to get into a pool, some people just jump in. I had one person who was like, they had a panic attack on a run in like a wooded area. And they were like, maybe I go in 10 feet and then I go in 10 more feet and then I go in 10 more feet, like progressive exposure therapy. And this particular person was like, she had the right attitude. She was like, you know what? F it. If I die, I die. And I ran full sprint into the middle of the forest. And I said, and go ahead and kill me. Right. Most people do some sort of gradual, like go for a 7-second walk. But it's never really about the things that you're doing to check it off in a box.
Yes, it's about how
I'm treating, how I'm feeling where I am. Yeah. It's like this guy thinks being dizzy outside is danger. And it's your job to show your body that dizzy is safe 7 feet from my house, 1,000 feet from my house. The exposure is really, you're exposing yourself to a feeling in your body.
But Michelle, what if I have a bad reaction? So what if I go outside and I do that exposure and then I react badly? Did I just ruin everything?
Nope. There I go. Black and white thinking again. I'm much more interested in people seeing the patterns as opposed to, oh, wow, I went outside. I guess I can be dizzy outside. Oh, I got even more dizzy. Oh, well, I guess I got more dizzy. oh, well, right? It's a lighter touch. If
Yes.
you are going at everything black and white with a very rigid, all or nothing, pass or fail, perfectionism belongs in the DSM more than some of these other disorders do. It is such a driving force to, if I don't do it right, I fail. And if I fail, I'm stuck like this forever.
Yeah. 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 Excellent. Okay. Well, one more question. I know we're near the end of our time together, but I wouldn't forgive myself if I didn't ask this because this is going to come up. So we talked a lot about basically the fear today, fear and anxiety and our responses to and our thoughts and our behaviors. Do you think that there's a place to people understanding why they might have become particularly sensitive to danger? Because we learn from our past experiences. So and we know that people with chronic pain or chronic dizziness are more likely to have had perhaps adverse experiences or stressful experiences. What's the place of doing, from your perspective, what's the place of doing work on those things as part of getting better?
Like trauma work or going back to the past.
Yeah, it's tricky. Yeah.
It is tricky. That's not a quick sum up. That's not a quick sum up.
No, 90 seconds. Tell me your thoughts on trauma.
I mean, the short answer is it depends, right? So from what I see with my clients, it can be pretty useful for context to have it make sense. Oh, that makes sense. I grew up, my childhood was full of uncertainty and doubt, and the people that were supposed to take care of me maybe didn't do the best job. They just weren't able to. And yeah, I did a lot of things to stay safe, or I did have something happen. Wow, that makes sense. And it kind of gives it more of a strengths-based perspective on like my ability to be a survivor. And now here I am. What happens is these disorders usually happen after somebody's safe, right? Not in the midst of danger.
Absolutely. Yes. Thanks for pointing that out. Yes.
Right? Because now that I'm safe, but I spent a good amount of time, life was dangerous, so I was in survival mode. But now life is not dangerous for the most part anymore, and I'm stuck in survival mode, surviving through non-survivable things. So the first step is great job, part of my body that helped me get to where I am, because I am a survivor. And all of this has to do with survival. That being said, I'm going to say a lot of that being said, and it sounds like I'm going to go back and forth. What happens is that's starting like the last, 5-10 years, that seems to be the only answer. Like, oh, if you have an anxiety disorder or you have this, we have to go find the problem that you had to have had back there.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
There must be something back there. And until we find that, we'll never fix this.
That's right.
And then it becomes a 10-year search for the problem, and you're still freaking dizzy, right? So not particularly useful, that overall mindset, correct, right? Another part of this is that I'm much more interested in your intention of going back to your past, because I'll have people that I love there and I get it, it makes sense, but I'm still so anxious. What do you think about inner child work? What do you think about family systems therapy? Should I try meditation? Why are you trying it? Do you really want to work on this stuff? Do you really want to learn how like your perceptions were developed and work on your relationships and really sort through trauma? Or are you really just seeing, if I fix this, I'll fix that? Because then trauma work can also become a compulsive sort of thing where I need to do this to fix this.
Yes. Yeah.
Where trauma is like the seed that might have the catalyst that kicked off this OCD-ish type cycle, but the root is the pattern, the continued involvement in desperately trying to get rid of this thing. And sometimes therapy can be another compulsive behavior. So that's why it's
totally
tricky.
Can. It is tricky. Yeah, it is tricky. And I agree with your take on it. To me, I always tell people, start from what's happening right now. And ultimately, what we want in the moment is for you to disengage from fear and feel agency and power.
Yes.
And so sometimes you can disengage from fear, but you still don't have a good relationship with yourself. And that's because of things that happened to you before. And that can also keep your nervous system kind of elevated. So then you do maybe want to look, maybe not like, let's talk about my mother, maybe not, but more just like, what kinds of other patterns do I have in my life that tell me my
Exactly.
relationship is not very good with myself?
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
then maybe we need to trace them back, maybe we don't, but often that kind of happens naturally. We land there naturally by
Mhm.
understanding what's happening right now, right now.
And that's really the point of any good trauma work, is to bring you here anyway. Like any therapy that you sign up for, it should be to live your life here,
That's right.
right?
Yes.
To be here and live here, because this is the only place we are anyway.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. And talking endlessly about past experiences doesn't necessarily bring you here now, but when used correctly, when done in the right context, it can
Mm-hmm.
completely transform how you're relating to here and now. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's what you're
Mm-hmm.
aiming for. And I have a whole video with my thoughts on this that I'll also link to in the video description in case anyone's interested in my opinion on this. I'm not a psychotherapist, so my opinion is just my opinion, but it's basically recapping what we just talked about. So now I have your backing, Michelle. Michelle's like, oh my gosh, what am I backing? No, but basically I said what we just talked about, that you, it may be useful to undo some of those patterns, but it's all about here and now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
your intention, right? Like why? So I've had people that have
Why am I
done
doing it?
trauma therapy, but they were doing it not quite with the right intention. Then they found this approach of like, oh, being here, being like with
Yes.
fear, being with whatever. And then they went back and did that old past work
Yes.
with the right attitude, with the right mindset, with different reasons. And it
Yes.
was a whole different experience for them.
Yes. Trauma therapy should not be playing whack-a-mole. You're
Mm-hmm.
not trying to knock out, oh, I have to release this trauma or I'm not going to get better. That's not what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
I think you agree
Mm-hmm.
with me.
Mm-hmm.
It can be useful to trace some things and get you into a good relationship with here and now. But it's not like you're going to find that one thing and you're going to fix it with this one magical session. You're going to have this huge release and then suddenly everything's going to be great.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Right. Because these disorders pick up on themselves too. So trauma might come paired with anxiety and sleep issues and things like that. And when you work through the trauma, these things get alleviated. But when you develop disordered relationships with these things,
Yes.
then that
Yes.
requires its
It's
own
own treatment.
undoing.
Yes. Michelle, you and I are on the same page, and you are just, the way you explain this, uh, you're delightful, and this was such a fun conversation for me. I just really hope everyone listens to everything that you said, because you are just spot on with everything you said in this entire conversation.
Thank you. It's so nice to talk to people in different disciplines that are saying the same thing we're saying. That's not about anxiety specifically and
Yeah.
anxiety disorders. It's about all other things and how they're so closely related.
Yes, totally. And nothing more than some of these chronic physical symptoms that they're
Mm-hmm.
just so closely related. And they may not necessarily find your work either because they don't have an anxiety disorder. They'd never
Right.
had a mental health related manifestation of anxiety. But with these chronic symptoms comes this disordered relationship with
Mm-hmm.
the symptoms that you're describing. And that's why this applies to them, even if it's not anxiety as a mental health kind of thing, or obsessive compulsive
Right.
disorder as a mental health thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you again. I can't thank you enough. This was just a fantastic conversation. And I'll be sure to link to all of your social media related things, your Instagram, which is fantastic with the short videos, your YouTube channel with some longer Q&As and some interviews that you have, and your website and the app as well. Anything else I should include there?
Yeah. Well, the newest thing on the app, I have a section called Dare for Kids, which is,
Amazing.
it's not babyish. I just don't curse in them, which is a rarity for me. So it's child friendly content. But
It's
if you were to get the app, I would tell you it's a simplified version of Dare. It's animated.
That's
It's a
wonderful.
lighter touch to these patterns, and it shows kind of like how we develop these relationships with thoughts and feelings in our body and how to sort of develop healthy relationships with it. So
Oh,
look at that section.
excellent. Okay, will do. Again, Michelle, thank you so much. And all of you, thank you so much for tuning in. If you have questions or comments for either of us, just drop them below. You can also like the video, share, subscribe to my channel. Those things help me reach more people. And I know some of you are also listening to this as a podcast. So if you could give the podcast a follow, leave us a 5-star rating. Also, those things help us reach more people. Thank you to everyone. A special thank you to Michelle, and we will see you soon. Take care. Bye, everyone.